Thank you, Margaret Ann, and thank you for having us at this event in your Schiffman building. This is a great place to release the sanctuary, the Southern Sanctuary.
Okay. It is my honor.
Thank you. Okay. It was Margaret Ann who donated the 300 wild riparian acres to the city of Huntsville in 2003. It has been the inspiration for our Sanctuary Artist Group as well as for this book. First, I want to introduce the person to whom I owe unbounded appreciation, and I don't know where she went, but her name is Elizabeth Motherwell. She is the acquisitions editor for the natural sciences at the University of Alabama Press in Tuscaloosa. Beth has worked with me throughout the whole process, all the way from liking my original proposal, for which I was very grateful, to the end and to book in hand. So I'm truly grateful to Beth. In addition to Beth, I would also like to acknowledge several other people at the University of Alabama Press. One is Vanessa Rush. Vanessa is the managing editor at the press, and she's the person who edited the text, edited the gremlins out of my writing, and made sure that it was correct. So I owe her a big thanks. The other person at the press that I want to mention is Michelle Quinn. And several people have admired the cover of the book. Michelle was the cover designer, and she also did the layout for the book itself. So in addition to that, Michelle went to bat for me, for the book, to have the map in the front of the book done in a more artistic manner. There are other people at the press that I'm also grateful to that I didn't have the opportunity to work firsthand with like I did with Beth and Vanessa and Michelle, but I also owe them a debt of gratitude also. I'm also sincerely grateful to the board of the Friends of the Preserve and Sanctuary, better known as FOPS, and to the Land Trust of North Alabama and to the Tennessee Valley Audubon Society, especially to Ruby Norman there, who went all the way to Audubon headquarters to find out about sponsorship for the book. Their generous contributions helped to make this publication possible. My special thanks go to Hallie Porter, who at the Land Trust had appreciated the text and appreciated the effort to make this sanctuary in Huntsville known by writing a very nice review, which is on the book. Others that contributed in different ways, Nick Sharp is here somewhere. Okay. Nick is a wildlife biologist with the Alabama Division of Freshwater Fisheries. He taught me the fine points of tracking bobcats. And it's his photo on page 16 that I included in the book. There are only 3 photographs in the book that weren't taken by me, and that is one of them. Another one was taken by Jim Puff, who was then with the city's green team. Jim set up motion-activated night vision cameras in the sanctuary to get pictures of animals that I couldn't see and would never have a chance to see. And he got shots on that camera of turkeys, deer, and bobcats. So not only did I have tracks, but I have proof that they're out there. And for the photo on the inside of the back flap, the flap of the back cover, I am indebted to my husband, Richard Modlin. Richard's a retired professor and director of the honors program at UAH when he was there some years ago. He provided his expertise in the area of aquatic life in plants and fishes and made sure that I got my facts straight. He also is due a huge credit for putting up with my erratic presence and my schedule, especially during the last 2 years that I worked on the book. Those were intense. So thank you, Richard. Several experts in other fields. One was Nanette Swartz, who was here earlier. Nanette was a specialist in the area of mushrooms, and she was my fact checker, as well as the Dr. Peterson at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. Other people helped. The Wildflower Society here, several people in that read excerpts and made sure that I had those facts straight. And I'm really grateful to Drusilla Essinger over there, who made sure that the herbs and other wildflowers were properly identified. There are many others that I'm not going to mention, but who I have nevertheless sincerely appreciated their help throughout this process. Now I'm going to switch gears just a little bit, several people have expressed an interest in this building. This building, in which we now stand, is owned by Margaret Ann. But I want to give a brief history, and if you're interested in picking up some additional information, I think there's some flyers on the table back in that corner. The building was built in 1845 as a Federalist-style building. It was purchased by Margaret Ann's grandfather, Isaac Schiffman, in 1905 and listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1980. It was stylistically transformed from the Federal style to a Richardsonian Romanesque in the 1960s. And now it's one of the few remaining examples of this style of building in Alabama. William Brockman Bankhead, lawyer and attorney for the city of Huntsville from 1899 to 1902, U.S. Congressman for 23 years, Speaker of the House for 4 years, lived here for several years on the second floor. It is the birthplace of his daughter, Tallulah Bankhead, the famous movie star. If you'd like more detail, pick up the flyer over there. It's a lot longer than this. Okay. Well, people often ask me how I came to write this book about the land known as the Goldsmith-Schiffman Wildlife Sanctuary, and I think the most efficient way to explain that to you is to read just a bit from the preface. My fascination with the wild land bordered on the east by the Flint River and located about 10 miles southeast of Huntsville, Alabama, began on a cool day in mid-March 2009, when I first walked through the red metal gates and hiked the rudimentary trails of what would become the Goldsmith-Schiffman Wildlife Sanctuary. The land was donated to the city of Huntsville in 2003 by entrepreneur and naturalist Margaret Ann Goldsmith. She envisioned it becoming a sanctuary for wildlife and a place for learning about nature and restoring the spirit. The sanctuary encompasses approximately 400 acres of open bottomlands, marshes, sloughs, streams, vernal pools, and forests. So, one other group that I want to mention is the sanctuary artists. Several sanctuary artists are here today. They're wearing name tags, and many other people are wearing name tags, so we'll include you too. But the sanctuary artists are also co-hosts, so if you have questions, Dee Holmes is over there. Larry Long is tending the bar. And Margaret Ann and me and Sarah McDarris here. And I'm sure and Sam Tominello, okay? And there are others, but I can't see them right now. The group is made up of 13 artists and of various genres now. It was named in 2009 by Clayton Bass and Margaret Ann, who met over a cup of coffee at Starbucks and decided that the best way to make the sanctuary known to people in the area would be through art. Okay, there are poets, musicians, painters, photographers, a glass artist, a potter, a sculptor of wood, a storyteller, and a couple of writers. And did I say musicians? Okay. There are several members of the SA group hike with me at various times in the sanctuary, and I tried to make the book as personal as I could, so I've included first names throughout the book. On that day in March, when I first visited the sanctuary, I discovered numerous wildflowers, spring beauties, violets, early saxifrage, and spring cress, all beginning to bloom. Great blue herons circled a rookery across the river. In the woods, burgeoning red buckeye buds added a splash of color. 3-inch-tall dwarf wake robins bloomed lavender or white near the base of a large oak tree in the Tupelo swamp. And in the meadow, Tracks of deer, raccoon, rabbit, and bobcat provided proof that there was active wildlife in the area. I was always a watcher of nature. I grew up 2 miles from town and in a rural area, and I enjoyed outdoors all my life. I dreamed of becoming a naturalist, and instead I became a laboratory scientist, an experimenter with cellular life and molecular associations, which was the thing that women didn't go in those years back there out and become naturalists in the fields. So I'm finally getting back to doing what I really enjoy doing and what I had started out doing some number of years ago. I returned to the sanctuary often to photograph and document each wildflower, insect, reptile, mammal, bird, and scene that caught my attention or which my fellow hikers asked about. The habits of keen observation and meticulous record keeping, which I learned as a research scientist, were also applicable in the field. So over the years, over the course of 4 years actually, my journals filled notebooks and the idea materialized for a book. So that's what I did. I wrote a book to document the natural history of the area and the diverse species that one can find there, as well as to describe the beauty of the sanctuary itself. Both the book and the sanctuary offer an opportunity to learn about and really see the myriad existences in nature. So that was my purpose, and that's how I got started. But in the beginning of any endeavor, we cannot know to what magnitude a single idea or action may grow. It's just so with the sanctuary and the sanctuary artist, and with the book. The seed for all was planted when Margaret Ann Goldsmith donated the first 300 wild bottomland acres along the Flint River in North Alabama to the city of Huntsville for a wildlife sanctuary. I hope the book will inspire others to explore the richly diverse habitat of this sanctuary, to learn about it and see its beauty, and to appreciate the physical and psychological benefits that can be gained from spending time in nature. So if you're holding up okay, I'll read a couple of short excerpts from the pages of the book. I wrote it first person and present tense. Starts out, come walk with me in the sanctuary. Come walk with me on a hike through a wild riparian habitat. It's a humid, hazy 75-degree September day in North Alabama. We began at the swamp overlook, accompanied by the music of a Carolina wren. The swamp is peaceful. Mountains in the distance stand as a backdrop, emphasizing the swamp's flatness. Clumps of arrow arum growing in the dark water point their arrow-shaped leaves upward toward the shade of a swamp-loving red maple. We leave the overlook and walk along the trail that wanders beside a stream. At the stream's marshy edge, cattails tower over patches of frilly aquatic plants. The air is heavy with the scent of marsh vegetation, of fall wildflowers. Goldenrod, daisy fleabane, Asiatic dayflower, woodland lettuce, and giant ironweed bloom nearby. A breeze ruffles the alders and pink-blooming smartweed at the marsh edge. So it's descriptive, and it also has scientific information. There are lists of, at the end of each chapter, the species of animals, plants, animals, insects, etc. that we saw. I'll read one other thing here from in the wild. Things are not always gentle. So we keep that in mind as we walk the trails. This poem, I'm not a poet, but I wrote this poem because the sanctuary is a very inspirational place. This poem was written because one day when I was walking, I saw a dragonfly who was suspended on a spider's web. The title is The Language of Alders. I wonder if there's a language alders speak. Do they whisper to insects on their leaves and stems and buds? Do alders tell of cycles and seasons and life beyond the meadow? And do they translate the wisdom of the wind to bobcat, bird, and deer? And what do alders say to the spider, whose web balances life and death between the twigs? For here by wingtips a hapless dragonfly swings, suspended by a spider's web, as if it were a shirt hung on a line to dry, a player in nature's timeless dance of fortunes. And I have one other thing. I'm going to read this one. This excerpt is from January. It's a good thing that the book has the month and the chapter name on the side here. Okay. We continue to the gravel bar trail. Patches of snow in the field glisten in the sun, and woods brighten with snow-reflected light. At the gravel bar, we are happy to find several bluebirds. These do not appear to be afraid of us. They fly from the treetops to drink water from the stream about 20 feet away. Margaret Ann and I find ourselves incorporated into a scene of contrasting sounds and textures. The intense blue of the bluebirds splashes against a canvas of gray-brown tones of bare trees and vines, white snow, brown sand, and fallen leaves. The rough texture of pebbles on the sandbar contrasts with smoothly flowing water as it lilts hypnotically against the quiet of the woods here. We stand in reverence of the serenity and beauty of the place. But the mood shatters abruptly. Quicker than a heartbeat, the scene is broken like those ice crystals crunched underfoot earlier today. Suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I glimpse a motion. A fast-moving object is flying toward us from upstream. It veers downward and flies low over the edge of the stream in front of us. I recognize it, a hawk. Its aim is sure. The bluebird at the water's edge had no opportunity to escape. I register a gasping cry. Then all is quiet again, except for the singing water. The hawk has vanished as if it never existed into the island's deeper woods across the stream, its meal secure in its grasp. The other bluebirds have scattered into the woods, and now silent and completely still as if frozen, they wait high in the trees until they sense that danger has passed. Another of nature's small dramas has just played out before us, so sad for the bluebird, but a matter of survival for the hawk. And in conclusion, yes, that is one of yeah. That's not the one, however, who was caught. This is the conclusion. Knowledge and understanding of nature come from careful observation, paying attention to subtleties, and noticing inconsistencies. In the technologies of our fast-moving world, we've lost much of the perceptive powers our ancestors used to survive in this diverse and wonderful land. But with practice in listening, noticing, and absorbing, we can reawaken this ability. Becoming attuned to sounds, the songs of birds, the sound of wind, the noise of insects, provides us a key into their world and allows us another world for us to explore. In his book, What the Robin Knows, John Young suggested that if parents listen to the language of birds with their children, it will help the children to connect with their deepest instincts and selves. I hope this book will inspire us to tune into what the robin can tell us, to be in communication with nature. And thank you.